everyone, and welcome to another episode of Solar Sidekicks. This is episode 16. My name is Pat Southwell, and I will be your host as I normally am. We are here at Radio Carrum Community Radio Station, and we'll be talking everything solar. First of all, I'd like to do acknowledgement of country. Excuse me, sorry, sorry, I had a frog in my throat there. Sorry, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional landowners of where we are doing this today, and that's the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And I pay my respects to all elders, past, present, and emerging. Want to do a quick tidy up on last week's episode. Thanks, Lauren, for coming in. Lauren from Supply Partners. Another engaging chat. Getting good feedback already on the socials about it. Thank you so much, Lauren. So interesting. All the stuff you shared about your personal life and about what you're doing in your professional life. Really interesting chat, really authentic chat too. So it's a lifelong friend I've just got there with Lauren. So thanks again, Lauren. All right, let's get into this week's episode. So today we have a guest come in to Carrum, just a regular solar industry person. So I reckon We'll do a little bit of an introduction. So let's see if I get all of these right. So the former CEO of RACV Solar, the founder of Gippsland Solar, president of Mubu North
Football
Netball Club, devoted husband and father of 3 boys, King of Sting, the master of the disaster, the one and only Andy McCarthy. Andy McCarthy, welcome to Radio Carrum. Thanks for coming in.
You did not warn me about that intro, Patrick.
Yeah, I had to watch. I knew I was going to go with that. I had to go with. I had to watch Rocky IV, or the last part, the start of Rocky IV, when Apollo Creed
During your intro there, you had a little glint in your eye, like you were building towards something. I was like, here he's planned something here.
Yeah, I had something ready for you, mate. I had something ready for you. Andy, thanks for coming in to Radio Carrum. Thanks for making the trip. Big trip for you. What is it, hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that?
Yeah, Dylan, 2 hours in traffic.
Yeah, yeah. Traffic all right today? Not too bad?
Yep, it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Punched out some lunches for my kids to go off to school and then wrestled in traffic with a coffee for an hour and a half, and here I am.
Nice. Good work. Good stuff. So, all right, well, you're here. You are here. You've got a few things that are happening at the moment, which we're going to get to. First of all, I have a question for you. I didn't even put this in the prep work, but I think if you've listened to my other episodes, you will know what is coming. So are you a solar sidekick or are you a solar superhero?
I hope I'm a solar superhero. Has anyone admitted to being a solar sidekick yet?
Yes, we have. We've had Carolina has been a solar superhero. Megan from TBS said she was a solar superhero.
She did.
There was someone else. I know Jess said she wanted to be a superhero, and I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, I'm happy with Bobby. I think Bobby said, actually no, Bobby didn't. Bobby said she was she lied. She thought she was a sidekick.
I think Bobby's anything but a sidekick.
Exactly. Oh, good. I'm glad you admitted to be a superhero. Now you got to explain why.
Well, I think I've contributed a fair bit into the industry.
Yep.
I've been on the solar coaster now for nearly 25 years.
Yeah, you have. You were an early adopter into, making this your career.
Yep.
You were, much before I jumped in. So yeah, when did you, 2001. 2001.
19-year-old.
Yeah, right.
How many systems were connected to the grid in Australia in 2001?
Oh, I don't know, about 3 maybe?
118 across the whole country.
Are you serious? Is that all? 118?
Yep.
That is an incredible number. That's, look how far we've come in that time.
So, so I've seen a lot in 24 years. I've enjoyed a bit of success in my life. I've been through some significant challenges as well.
Yeah.
Done a lot of mentoring of people in the industry. Brought a lot of women, Indigenous people in this industry. I feel like I've done a fair bit to try and raise the bar, and I want this to be a credible industry. So,
yep.
I think for me in business, having to lay down my sword and learn to, collaborate with my competitors was the hardest thing. But
yeah,
I get a real sense of joy of just seeing this renewable energy movement growing, regardless of whether I'm part of it or not. It's just nice to see us becoming a respected part of the energy mix.
Yeah, good stuff. That's good. I'm going to pay that as a pass. So superhero, give you the pass to being a superhero.
Thank you.
All right.
I love coming from you, Pat.
Thanks. Thanks very much. All right. Well, now there's a couple of things you're doing at the moment. So yeah, you're sort of about to get into a bit of a book launch at the moment. Look, I was going to leave it till a little bit later. Let's talk about it a little bit. Let's just a little bit of a teaser for it. So you've written a book. You've written a book. Now this is. I don't know anyone else. Actually, I know maybe one or two other people in Solar that have written a book, but I don't think it's in the same style that you've done yours. Yours is really like it's a life story, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've given you a bit of a sneak peek to help to prepare for today. But
Yeah.
you know what's interesting is that the amount of people that have reached out to me and congratulated me on getting the book published, and
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Big deal.
It's amazing how many people have written a book and either never finished it
Yeah.
or never done anything with it, never sent it to a publisher. It's just fallen by the wayside, and they're gone. I really need to go and finish that book off and get it published. But
Yeah.
it is far more work than I could ever have expected. Like, I reckon I've put nearly 1,500 hours into this project.
Yeah. Right.
And I never wrote it with the intention of publishing it. I actually wrote the book because I was going through some pretty dark times in my life, and I wasn't sleeping. I was pretty unwell, had a few mental health challenges, and someone said to me, the best form of counselling, sit down and write it all on paper. And so I sat.
Is that right? Do you reckon that? Do you believe that now?
Oh, mate, I can tell you now, I hadn't been sleeping properly for nearly 12 months. I got really crook, and I'll go into quite a lot of detail in the book about how bad things got for me. And yeah, I was at my wit's end, and then someone said to me, start writing it down.
Yeah.
The minute I started getting my thoughts out on paper and just documenting the journey, the highs, the lows, all the ugly stuff. The first version of the book was it was so unpolished and so raw. Wouldn't have passed the legal review, I can tell you that. But that night, I slept like a log for the first time in God knows how long. And so every night, I just sat down when the kids went to bed. I started putting all my thoughts down on paper, chronologizing, what do you say?
Journaling.
Yeah, journaling my journey.
Yeah. In chronological.
Chronological order. That's right. Documenting my journey.
Yeah.
And that was it. I only wrote it to try and help me to just get my life back on track. And
Yeah.
And I reckon I wrote maybe 65,000 words in probably 8 or 10 weeks. And I'm talking 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Wake up in the middle of the night, can't sleep. I have to get out of my head. I just have to get up and write it down.
Yeah. Right.
But it was very cathartic, and got to the end. And I felt like I'd just done this cleansing of my system, and that was the extent of it. And then I thought, we took a sabbatical once we sold the business. I exited from RACV, and had 6 months of work traveling around with the family. And, in the mornings, the kids are in the pool, Kel's at the gym. And I thought, well, I may as well, put some polish on this and just bring it up to something of a reasonable standard. Maybe the kids might want to read it in posterity one day to understand how mum and dad ended up where they are.
Yep.
And then I sent it to a friend of mine who's a published author, and she'd given me some help on how to get started. And
So had you decided you wanted to publish by then?
No, God, no.
No. So what made? So yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Yep.
Well, like, what made you want to publish? Like, as in, because it's such a big thing, like you said, and it's another commitment. Like, you've already written all this stuff down, and then to just take that next step, was it just the next gradual progression in things, or was it like, all right, this is a big deal, bang, I'm going to publish? Like, where did that sort of land?
It was really just at the point where I sent it to my friend who'd helped with the structure, and I said, here's the manuscript, whatever you want to call it, and thanks for all your advice and get started. And she messaged me back a couple of days later, and she's like, Andy, she goes, send it to a publisher. You really need to send this to a publisher. She said, I've read a lot of books over the years, and she said, I really like this book. It's really, really well written. And honestly, you've done all the work. Send it to a publisher. The only thing they can do is say no. And I thought, really? Published author? Do I want to? But I thought, what? I have done the work. So I started doing my research on the publishing industry. I found the best publisher I could find that only does social impact type projects.
Yeah, right.
Based in South Melbourne with 100 staff. So they're a tier 2 publisher. So not one of the big tier 1s where they demand you to put this, that, and the other in to sell copies, and it's all about sales.
Yep.
This was really a publisher that does things from the heart, things they care about, making the world a better place.
So not like a tier 2 Solar Total.
No. Tier 2 or tier 1 to actually mean something in the publishing industry. It hasn't been bastardized in the publishing space.
Yeah.
So I found these guys at Firm Press.
Yep.
And then I went on their website, and I was like, how do you even get a publishing deal? Like, I found out on their website they publish 100 books a year, and they probably get 3,000 or 4,000 submissions. I was like, oh, well, I can't even just get a publishing deal. I'm not going to. It's a very competitive space. There's people that do this for a career.
Yeah.
So anyway, I looked on the website and they said, we accept submissions between 1 and 5 p.m. on the last Friday of every month. I thought, could you imagine just the maelstrom of rubbish that
Between what, 1 and 5?
yeah, they only accept submissions in a small 4-hour window each month because so many people are trying to get a publishing deal. They said we can only accept submissions in this time, and then their inbox just gets flooded with all these people that think
That sounds like a solar rebate's about to end or something.
yeah, that's right.
Everyone's
Yeah.
rushing in, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
And I thought, can you imagine how many hundreds of stories of varying quality they'd receive in that window?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not the way to get results.
Mm,
So I found out who the managing director of a firm press was.
mm.
And then I found everyone from a firm press on LinkedIn that I could find. And I sent them a message going, hi, my name's Andy. I've written a story.
You were that annoying person, were you? Yeah.
I was. But I just peppered everybody from the firm press,
Yep.
sent them a connection request. And then I waited 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then I sent the manuscript straight to the managing director as a Word document. And I said, hey, sorry for subverting the process here. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
But I've got a story. If you're interested, let's talk. If not, thanks for your time.
Yep.
I thought I may as well throw a Hail Mary. He came back to me 5 days later and he goes, I just read this whole book over the weekend. He goes, I love this story. I want to publish it for Father's Day next year.
Mm-mm.
I was like, damn, are you serious?
Nice.
So, and then we went in for the first interview. And he said, it was a pretty big front of you just to send it straight to me. And I said, would you have read it if I'd gone through the submission process? He said, it never would have found its way onto my desk. So,
Wow.
and he said, when I opened your email, I thought, I bet this guy ran his business like this for 13 years as well, always looking for the side door. And so, yeah, and they just said, we love everything about your story. It's raw, authentic, and we want to publish it. And then I just had this overwhelming, like first it was like, this is brilliant. But then the next emotion that next morning was like, oh shit, I felt like massive imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm like, who am I to write a book and think that it's interesting enough that someone would spend money and spend time learning about it? So I felt like a bit of a fraud.
Mm.
And my friend, the publisher, she rang me and she said, it pisses me off when people like you have no idea how hard it is to get a publishing deal. You just send it to the managing director and he comes back and says, I'm going to give you a publishing deal. She's like, bugs me so much.
Yeah.
But
was that easy for you? Like, I mean, you look at what other people publishers go through. It sounds like you kind of did maybe get in the back door. You found your own way in, right? Was that an easy process for you, or was it still hard? Even though it was easy, the easy way, was it still hard to do?
No, I don't. Look, it's not. I don't have many skills on paper in my life. I don't have any education. I don't have any formal accreditations or anything. I think I just have an ability to try and find a way through in life.
Yeah,
and I don't do it in a cynical way. I think I'm always looking to build relationships and I feel like the amount of time that I spend on LinkedIn just reaching out to people, cold calling, people I hold in high regard. If you look through the my inbox on LinkedIn and the amount of people I've reached out to and thrown my heart and soul into it and never heard back from them, I'm just like, bugger them. If they're not interested, they're not interested. I just move on.
Yep.
But life's all about just opening doors and seeing what's behind them.
Mm.
And I don't think business is really that hard. Whether it's selling solar, whether it's getting a publishing deal, I think there's always a way in life to try and do something in an easier or, a little bit of move off a different path and just always try and be creative in life because it's the beauty of life is that there's no one recipe for success.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Well, interesting. So, that's how you got your deal. And now you're sort of, when was that? What was your timeline there? Like you would have done a whole lot of this writing. Was that before your overseas trip or was that sort of?
Yeah, well, I started writing when I still had 12 months left at RAC.
Oh, right. Is that when you started?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was a really dark stage in my personal and professional life. And so I wrote the book as a way of getting through to the end of my contract there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it did get you through. It really did. That journaling, I suppose, because that's what it probably was then. You didn't know you were going to do a book deal back then.
Had no idea.
Just writing all your thoughts down, getting everything together, and right.
And actually, the publisher said that is exactly what we want to hear in the first interview. Why did you write the book?
Yeah,
I wrote it because I just want to be raw and authentic and tell my story. Yep, not doing it for money or fame or notoriety or profile. It's the people that don't ever intend to write it to be published. He said they're the best people to work with. So, it actually was the thing that got me through my final 12 months. Because, like, no disrespect to RACV, it was just hard.
Yeah,
I wasn't a corporate animal. I didn't love that corporate environment. I never coveted it. And once I was in there, I realized this was part of selling a business is you have to go through this process.
Mate, no one said business was easy. That's not disrespectful at all. Just because, you would still say, I'm sure, they were a great organization, RACV, and like ethical, all those sort of things. It's just, at that point, like that's not what it's not what you want to be doing now because you're not. And, we all move through life and we all go through different things. And yeah, I think what you said is right. You find your way.
Yeah. Look, I started this business and grew the business
Yeah.
because I loved my team. Like I loved them,
Mm.
loved my customers. And after the acquisition, I became more and more disconnected from my people, spent more and more time in head office in the corporate space, playing the games that I don't love.
Mhm.
It's all part of it,
Yeah.
but it's not where I wanted to spend my time. I wanted to be with my people on a roof, out there with the sales team,
Yeah.
connecting with them. And yeah, I just didn't like that sort of lofty sort of corporate stuff. And I don't think RACV could have done anything different to make me feel any happier or more satisfied in that role. Just not me.
Yep.
They treated me wonderfully well. So good to us. And the way they look after customers, the values of the organization, I would never do anything differently.
Yep.
It's just I did my 3 years, and the day that my contract ended, I was like, time for a change.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Well, and then, you did, once that did finish, you went on a massive holiday.
Yeah.
So everyone I think I know was pretty jealous of you seeing all the stuff you were doing. Although, there was a few things I saw like broken bones and other injuries and stuff. That was,
I was actually, I was trying to chase my boys down down a mountain bike track in the French Alps, and I wanted to try to show them that Dad's still a bit of a legend.
yeah, you still got it.
Oh, yeah, so I was barreling down this hill on a mountain bike, and, like, they call it grade 6 out of 10 over in France. In Australia, it'd be a 9.5.
Yeah.
Like, it was intense. There was berms and rocks and bridges to jump over with no rail on the side. Like, it scared the crap out of me, but I was like, I want to show the kids I'm still a legend. And then the worst thing can happen to a 42-year-old man is that 2 19-year-old young punks went flying past me. I thought, well, I've got you and I've got you. So I took off after. I must have been doing 60 Ks an hour down this hill, past one, rounded the other one up around the corner, went over a jump, hit a rock, flew over the handlebars, tore all my shoulder ligaments, broke my collarbone, and yeah, end up in it. And the worst thing was I'd driven a 6-berth big ass motorhome right to the top of the French Alps along a rocky ledge, and then said to Cal, I can't drive anymore. And I sling on, you'll have to get us down.
I did. That's actually, I remember mentioning that to Jo, my wife, and she saw that too. And she's like, I tell you what, she must be a good catch to be after having to deal with all of that.
Yes.
I mean, I know you're the one in pain, but she's dealing with the kids. She's dealing with foreign country as well, and then dealing with you.
Yeah. I can tell you, I didn't make it into the highlight reel on social media, but she gave me hell.
Yeah.
The response was not, oh, I hope you're okay. She was like, you asshole. And then we had to go through Monaco. She was driving this big bloody motorhome around a chicane in the middle of Monaco, and these people staring at us with their hands on going, what are you doing? And she did a 5-point turn, and she asked me to get a video of it because it was a really tight corner. I've got the camera out videoing it. She's doing a 5-point turn, and then cars started tooting on both sides, and she stalled it on this thing, and she's like, put the bloody phone down. It was very stressful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that would have been like I'm in a similar sort of family situation to you, married with 3 boys. And I can only imagine that would have been so good for your family. Like, I mean, you would have gone through highs and lows, but you would have all just come together so well.
Yep.
I can only imagine, what that would do for my family at this stage. It would have been really good, and that's something especially your boys will remember forever.
I hope so. And I mean, you know what it's like yourself, Pat. Like, you're so driven and you want to change the world and whatever. And
Yep.
it does impact your ability to be a good husband and father.
Yep.
And so I front loaded a lot of my stress. And it wasn't just the hours I spent at work, it was my lack of presence when I was at home. Like,
yeah,
I wrote about this in the book at times. So I got to a point where, like, I stopped building sandcastles and kicking the footy. And even when they were reading to me, my mind was somewhere else. And the guilt was starting to consume me, to be frank. And so I was lucky to get an exit from our business at a point in the life where kids were still young.
Yep.
And I said to Cal, let's do something just to reconnect as a family, because it has driven us apart in some ways. We get along fantastically well, but fair to say I was pretty selfish for a long time.
Yep.
So this 6-month sabbatical, traveling around the world together, we ticked off a whole bunch of sporting bucket list items. We went to Israel and Palestine and toured refugee camps, and just gave the kids this incredible life experience that they still keep referring to things that I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
And really landed with them. So best thing you could possibly do after a very tough few years as a family.
Yeah. Oh, I can only imagine. How much they would have grown up as well.
Yeah.
Like, from the first day one to when you finished, when you landed back in at Tulla, like they would have been different kids.
Well, yeah, the European league was great, but in hindsight, we want to spend more time biting off a bit more and doing some more interesting stuff because,
Yep.
you know, we were in Israel, went across into the West Bank into the occupied territories.
You've told me this story.
9 days before the Troubles blew up. And
Yeah.
I remember my boys doing a tour of a refugee camp, the separation wall there, and our Palestinian guy, Marwan, was telling us some stories that made us feel really uncomfortable. We shed a few tears and remember my 11-year-old boy, Ollie, almost like there's a mural painted in the middle of the refugee camp of this little kid on a scooter. He said to Mum, he goes, "Where's that boy? Why is there a mural of him?" He said, "Oh, this boy, he was killed in a protest. And he got shot in the head by a sniper. He's riding his scooter through a protest, and he's 11. You could see a look on Ollie's face like, I'm 11.
Yeah.
Oh, it was heavy. Yeah. So, and the kids are still like, they talk about that day because it was so powerful. It was powerful for us. Imagine for a 13, 11, and 9-year-old. And
I can't imagine what they would be thinking. That just fear. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Just fear and unknown.
And just to see, like, outside of our little bubble in a little town called Murban North in the hills, that life's pretty bloody difficult for a lot of people. And the senselessness of the separation wall and all of the history of that region to a bunch of kids who just have no idea. We've met Jews, Arabs, and Muslims, and they're all just the most lovely people.
Yep.
And you can just see the look in these kids' faces, which we should all feel that way, as like, why is it like this? Why does it have to be this way? They're all just nice people who want to create a peaceful life for their family. And so we saw things that made us feel really uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, Marwan, the guide, he grabbed all the boys in for a big hug and he said, "Thank you for coming to hear my story." And he had a tear rolling down his cheek. And it was just so profound. So to anyone that's ever thinking about just throwing things in and doing something really epic like that, I can't encourage you enough. It opens your eyes to how privileged we are.
Yeah.
And also, the fact that the world's a tough place.
Yeah. It is. Look, that is a hard leap for people to make. And you're obviously, from what you're saying, you're very happy that you did it. You made that leap. How do you encourage people to do that? Like because I would love to do it too, but I don't know. Life is so, I don't know. It's busy and you've got commitments and there's so many things and I don't know. What do you
look? I'm not tone deaf to the fact that we're very fortunate to be in a position to be able to make that decision.
Yeah.
Like I don't say, everyone should just take 6 months of work and travel around the world. I sound like a wanker, but because we were lucky that we sold our business. But but I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker. Like you can travel on a shoestring budget. You can have amazing life experiences by just putting yourself out there. And I just feel like you need to have, and speaking down to people, it's hard to do, but I think you need to have the courage to just say, why not? Cal said, well, we can't. I said, why not? Well, we're still at RACV. Okay, so when the contract ends, so take 6 months off. Well, I've got a job. Take 6 months off leave. A leave without pay. Well, we can't. The kids are in school. I'm like, we'll do remote learning. We've proven we can do it. And so every time we sort of said we can't, we're like, well, why can't we? We can put a tenant in our house. We can get our dog looked after. There's actually no reason. If you actually stop and think about the word can't, there's very few reasons why you can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just that it's uncomfortable and it's uncertain. And sometimes that's what life is all about, is just doing things that make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Probably the same reason that I decided to get the book published is because it makes me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you're uncomfortable, you're growing.
That's when special things happen, I think.
Yeah.
When you're uncomfortable, get out of your comfort zone, jump out from what you would normally do, and you find some special things happening. And I think you're a good example of that. Like, definitely stepped a lot out of your comfort zone. I think your whole life, I think, has been stepping out of your comfort zone, I think. And that's sort of why I think you've been so successful as well.
It's kind of my fuel, I feel like it's a cliche, what if you were to die tomorrow? But I do just try and think, like, if I had 42 years on this earth, not a day more, would I be proud of all the things I've done?
Yeah.
Would I be proud of the person I am? Would I be proud of the way that I treat my wife?
Yep.
The husband and father that I am? How I look after my mates when they're going through tough times? And am I proud of what I've done? And I just see life in phases. Like I want to do something and then I want to do something else and something else and something else. And just kind of keep adding layers to life and just taking big bites out of the world and having a big chew, because there's a lot to do out there and there's a lot of joy and wonder. You've just got to go and look for it.
Yeah. That's the very smart words. There's so much joy out there and a lot for all of us to experience. So yeah, I love that. That's nice. Really nice to hear. All right. Well, I think About time for our first ad break, Andy. We're going to go and hear from a word from our sponsors at Radio Carrum. If you've been listening to podcasts on the way here, you would have heard the lovely ads that we have. Do you have any comments you want to make on the ads, or you?
I love the jingles.
Yeah, you love it.
They're old school.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. The community of Carrum is an amazing place, and yeah, the sponsors are all part of that too, and we love what they do. So we'll hear from them now, and we'll be back in just a few moments. So, Andy, we've had a little bit of a break, bit of time to catch our breath. Been a good start, I think. So, thanks again for coming in. Really enjoying this chat. I want to ask you, what made you want to start a solar business out in coal country? Like, that's part of what you cover in your book. But I'm just interested, even if it's just a little bit of a teaser. Why solar? Like, it's, you go back to the days of early solar. It was pretty niche. Like, well, I don't know. We've all got our reasons why we got into it. What was yours?
Once you get me going, I'll probably give up the entire contents of the book here.
Just give us a teaser there.
Yeah, I'll give you a teaser.
Give us a teaser.
Look, for me, getting into solar was my salvation, to be honest. Like, I had a pretty awful childhood.
Yeah.
I was a bit of a jerk.
Yeah, right. Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Geelong.
Geelong, yeah.
Corio and Norlay in the really gritty.
Geez, Corio, what I know of Corio back in like the late 90s, that was a tough area.
Yeah.
That was pretty tough.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Didn't have any money, so I didn't really have any options in terms of schooling. I dropped out of school before the end of year 10 and I was a bit of a hiding to nothing.
Yeah.
I think I jumped before they threw me.
Yeah.
But I was in all world trouble with leaving school. I got kicked out of home. I was in trouble with the law. I was I was a troubled child. And by the age of 19, really could have gone either way. And found myself working for a company selling batteries, automotive and deep cycle batteries. And then one day a customer came in with a battery and you'd have to carry it 500 meters up the hill to recharge it once a week. He was really frustrated. He said, "Have you got any solutions for this battery?" And did some research. I thought, I could get an 80-watt solar panel, a little charge controller and put on a fence and just charge it all the time. Which, it doesn't sound groundbreaking in 2024.
Yeah.
But in 2001, like, there was no one doing it. There was no market for it.
Yep.
Thought, I could buy it for $800 and sell it for $1,100. Like, this is a pretty good margin.
Yeah.
So did some research. I had to install it, went out there with him and installed it and put it out in the sun and the little charge controller lit up and just like, this is my mission.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. I just thought the idea of powering anything, anywhere, anytime from the sun, no moving parts, like it just connected with me.
Yeah.
And it was the thing that kept my life on track and eventually became my purpose. So, without putting, too much emotion into it, that is actually what it did. And so I'm so grateful for this journey that I've been on because I don't know where I would have ended up. If you'd heard that I was going to be in the news when I was 16, you wouldn't have thought it was for the right reasons.
Yep.
So that was my mission from that point on. And yeah, so I worked for several companies over the next 10 years and met a beautiful woman down in Geelong who was a Gippsland girl that got a scholarship to Deakin Uni and traveled the world with her for 5 years and came back and we got pregnant. And then Kel said, "I don't really want to live in the city and raise a family."
So you'd moved back to Melbourne by then?
Yeah. We spent 5 years living overseas, jumping backwards and forwards, traveling around the world on the smell of an oily rag, shoestring budget. And we moved back and bought a house in Melbourne. Cal got pregnant and then we decided that the country life was for us.
Yep.
I wanted to move to Geelong, but by that stage, my parents had moved to Horsham. And
yeah, right.
Have you got any Horsham listeners in your audience?
Don't know. Maybe one. No, actually, I'm going to say no.
Good, because there is a snowball's chance in hell I was moving to Horsham. Like, no, thank you. So in the end,
I'm sure they've heard it all.
The Horsham Hill is the overpass over the train line. So it's flat and dry. So I won't be opening a business in Horsham after this podcast. But
I went for a family holiday there a few years ago.
How was it?
The caravan park was a bit how you going. That was a nice park we had lunch at.
Yeah, the Vic Hotel does a good park.
The Vic Hotel, we went to the Vic Hotel. I had a timer there. Yeah.
So other than the Vic Hotel, there wasn't a great amount of incentive to move there, I'll be frank. So
close to the Grampians at least.
Yes.
There's some fun stuff to do there.
Halls Gap's lovely.
Halls Gap, yeah, that's right.
So anyway, it was Geelong or Gippsland. We had no
Yep.
babysitters in Geelong anymore. And
Yep.
Kel said, I want to live in a small town like I grew up in. She grew up on 600 acres on the 90-mile beach,
All right.
little town called Woodside Beach.
Yeah, Woodside Beach. Yeah, I did a few jobs there. Oh, not
Yeah,
that long ago. Yeah,
beautiful part of the world.
yeah.
So in the end, Kel convinced me Gippsland was the place to
Yep.
lay our roots. And we just wanted to live in a small town somewhere off the highway. And
Yep.
I'll be frank, we didn't want to live in the Latrobe Valley. The unemployment was high, the air quality was low,
Yes.
power stations were polluting the atmosphere and all the rest of it. So it wasn't a very appealing place to live, but we wanted to be close to there. And yeah, just fell in love with a little town called Murban North. And yeah, I couldn't find a job though. That was the problem. Moved there for lifestyle. There was no solar companies back in 2010 in the Latrobe Valley because everybody hated solar.
Yeah.
There was just no social license for it. No one had even considered it. In fact, I shouldn't even say they hated it. It was more just ridicule. I think back then solar was 0.1% of the country's energy mix. And no one
Yeah.
thought in the valley that it would ever be anything more than a niche market for greenies and lefties.
Yep.
So I couldn't find a job. Cal was 7 months pregnant and running out of money big time. And then one day I came home and said to Cal, I'd spoken to all the solar companies in the area, I think 2 of them. There's no jobs. And Cal said, well, if there's no jobs, then there's no competition. Maybe we'll just start our own solar business. And I was like, wow, geez, I don't know.
It was her idea.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah.
She gave me the nudge.
Yeah.
And, so we took a $10,000 reader off the mortgage and found a little business called Gippsland Solar Proprietary Limited. And yeah, that was it. We started in a garage and built some shelving and a little makeshift office, and away we went. Our marketing budget was a $6 ad in the Murban North Times. It's a circulation of about 100 people
A week. $6 a week.
Yeah, $6 a week. Here's my card. That was our marketing budget for the first 12 months. So yeah, it was tough.
Geez, that's even old school for 2010.
Yeah. And even just the idea of starting a solar business, people were just like, it's just madness.
Yeah.
Because no one's ever going to buy into the solar renewable energy vision in the valley.
Yeah, I know, and you cover a fair bit of that in your book, and that's I can see that. Like that was. Oh, look, I know the tide's turning a bit now, and it still is coal country though.
Yeah.
Still some real hardcore coal people. I've done a lot of inspections out there, and you speak to some people get solar and they still don't believe in it. Like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely think that the tide's turning. I felt the turn in Gippsland over especially the last 5 to 10 years. There's been a really big acceptance or shift that it's not just going to be, we can't just rely on coal for the rest of our life.
Yeah, that's true. But I would encourage people that haven't been to the valley and spent any time there.
Yep.
Don't underestimate how much work we still have to do.
Oh, I know.
It's incredible. Some of the comments you see, and you only have to jump on the comments. I know social media is not the best representation of society, but these opinions exist.
Yeah.
You jump on any of the social media pages for the newspapers or the radio station down there, and you're hearing some of the things that people are saying.
Yeah.
Do you, without being arrogant, do you actually believe that? Have you actually done your research? Have you been educated on this? Because what you're saying has already been disproven, debunked, makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
It's not even an argument. It's actually just the information you're putting forward is just wrong. But they so badly want to believe it, a lot of people in the valley, because transition's hard for people in a coal-dominated region.
Oh, and it is still such a coal-dominated region. And anyone who is, listening from somewhere else or doesn't understand the scale of how big things are, I reckon a good way to work it out is you drive out to Gippsland, right? You start going, go through around Moe, and then you head up the hill.
Yeah.
You get to the top of the hill. You look, as soon as you get to the top, you look to the left, and you got your lawn power station, and it's the first thing you see on the left. This big, yellow, ugly thing.
Yeah.
And then you can see, I think it's Loy Yang straight away. You can see
Hazelwood.
Hazelwood
on the right.
Hazelwood's on the right. Yeah, Loy Yang on the behind.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And you can just see the scale of how big this industry still is. It's still incredible. And we've got a lot of work to do.
We do. And I mean, I always refer to the fact that in the 1960s, they moved an entire town. The township of Yallourn doesn't exist anymore. There's only a town called Yallourn North.
Yep.
Yallourn was a town. They moved the whole town because there was coal underneath. I mean, in what world these days could you move a whole township? Parks, schools, hospitals, gardens, people's livelihoods, multi-generational homes. Just pick them up and move them because we need to dig it up to access the coal underneath. I
didn't really know that. Like, I think I'd heard that.
Yeah, you don't ever go to Yallourn North and refer to it as Yallourn. That'll be a really good way to get run out of town. It's very emotional for a lot of people. multi-generational families that have been picked up and shifted and had their houses relocated.
Why is it emotional for them? Because they had their livelihoods moved.
Yeah,
That was a big thing for them
yeah.
at the time.
Yep,
Yeah.
I think so. But then there was such strong social license for coal
Mhm.
in the 60s, of course, and there was
Yeah.
no other alternatives really.
Yep.
But it's just amazing how easy it was to just pick up and move an entire town to access the coal underneath.
Mm.
And it's a lot of those attitudes, they still exist,
Yeah.
and even by the fact that as even in 2016 and 17, businesses that wanted to put on solar in the roofs in the valley,
Yep.
they wanted the solar panels sometimes over the back, around, not facing the street because they didn't want their customers to see that they'd put solar on. People still directly relate the installation of a solar panel to putting their mate Joe out of a job at the power station.
I think you've summed it up there exactly. That's how I can still see it. Um, yeah, bit of work to do still
Yeah,
to stop that.
there is, but we haven't. When I say we, like the people that believe in renewable energy, like
Yeah.
the whole market in the industry that is, behind the push to renewables, we haven't helped out ourselves. And I've been I've been quite scathing of some of the left leaning groups, frankly, and some of the environmental groups. Like I
Yep.
understand, I share their passion, but some of them, their approach has been all wrong. My approach was really bad as well. Like by 2013, I suddenly realized that one of my biggest problems is that I had this belligerence about the energy transition.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, we are transitioning. All of our biggest trading partners are transitioning. Like you don't get to decide in the valley if the world is transitioning. They're just going to take this opportunity and give it somewhere else, regardless whether you agree. And that arrogance and that dismissiveness of anyone that didn't agree with me, that was what was driving a lot of the sort of attitudes towards our business. I was a very
Yeah. All right.
polarizing figure. Yeah, and
What did you feel like you didn't bring the community along as much as you
yeah,
maybe could have? Is that what your reflection now?
my thinking was they can either join us,
Yeah.
we're all transitioning, or they can just get the hell out of the way. I was just
Yeah.
completely full of myself about it because I believe so strongly in this renewable energy future.
Mm.
But I realized around about that time that there's a different way. So
Mm.
I stopped, frankly, talking about climate change or global warming or net zero, any of that stuff. And I just started putting up pictures of apprentices in high vis
Yeah.
collecting their uniform for the first day of a new career. Everyone's like, yeah, we love jobs. Yeah.
Mm.
All of a sudden, the council got behind us. We won the Best New Business Award. We got nominated for some business coaching programs. The council actually put solar on all the buildings in the Latrobe City,
Yep.
which for us was our biggest victory because it was a statement to the community back in 2015. So having to learn to bring people on the journey, and there is always something in a debate. There's always something in the middle that unites us. There's something that weaves us and ties us together. If you just find that and use that as your Trojan horse to deliver your message, you'll bring people with you.
Bring them along with the journey.
Yeah, and that's where I think we started to enjoy more success when we actually spent time understanding why people feel a certain way, and understand a lot of their concerns about the rise of renewable energy, like, made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And for people in the valley, they don't see opportunity coming with the transition; they see opportunity leaving.
Yeah.
That's a tough message to try and shift over a long period of time.
Yeah. And I know some people in the valley they can be kind of pretty stern and stubborn characters, for sure. One thing I kind of that reminds me about sort of our journey together was this is sort of changing speeds a little bit, but it's with um there was an installer night back in 2018, 2019, I think it was. And I think it's probably the second time I'd met you or whatever. We had a bit of a chat, and we knew who each other were. We had a bit of a chat about things, and it was around the time the Solar Vic rebate was. It was a bit on the nose with pretty much the whole state, and it just turned out that we were doing our first ever uh, CEC installer night out in Terrelgan at the RSL Club. And yeah. Do you remember that night? Well, I copped a mouthful for I don't know. One guy got on his high horse for about 10 minutes and just kept talking, and just had to stand there and cop it. It had nothing to do with me at the end of the day, but I just had to stand there and cop it. And that's, I don't know, like I remember yourself and I think it was Shane Clayton there who was with you. He was saying, oh, well, this is what you get out in Gippsland country side of the thing. And yeah, that was my entry into Gippsland as someone in the industry. And it was a bit of a welcome.
Yeah, well, I was driving along the highway into the event that night.
Yeah.
I thought this will be interesting. I knew what you were in for, Pat. I didn't warn you, but I knew what you were in for. And that guy that went on his soapbox for 10 minutes, he used to work for me, so I knew exactly what he was going to do that night. I know the type of person he is. So
Yeah.
welcome to the valley. But and look, I still have days where I get home and want to bash my head against the wall and feel like we're not making any progress.
Yeah.
And as always, Cal's been my North Star. You know, she said to me one day, she said, "Well, we can pack up and move back to Northcote where everyone agrees with us.
Yeah.
Or if I want to make a real impact on the world, you got to do it here.
Mm.
This is where you make the biggest change."
Yeah.
So I try and use that as my fuel to, yeah, just to try and prove people that there is a way forward. And it's not about arguing and culture wars, ideological battles. It's just proving through positive intent, creating opportunities, new jobs, telling those stories, saying, "But I'm not going to argue with you about whether we're transitioning, whether the world global temperatures make any shift from moving to renewable energy at all. I'm not going to argue about that because it's irrelevant.
Mm.
For me, there's no reason not to transition. And
Mm.
I'm going to show you that I can create a lot of jobs for a lot of people who will never have to leave this region to go and find opportunity and build a career and raise a family and enjoy prosperity. That's what I get up every day to do, and just prove through my actions that this is the where we're going. And if people still don't agree, well, let them have that conversation. I'm not going to engage in it."
Mm. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough too. Well, I've got another question for you, Andy. You've been through a lot of highs in this industry. Um, you've got a lot of things right. There's no doubt about that. Been a very successful professional and person in the industry, and yeah, I take my hat off to you for that. You've also been, um, you've said that you've made a lot of mistakes as well, and you've been quite upfront about that with a lot of the stuff you've written in your book and other people you've spoken to. Do you have any regrets about how your professional life and your life, I suppose, has gone at this point?
Try not to regret too much. I guess
Well, it's a
everything.
tough question, mate.
Yeah, it is. Everything serves a purpose in life.
Yep,
There's a lot of things we've done differently.
yep,
I think in business too. Um, I think I'm proud of the way that I've treated people over the years. I don't think I've forgotten who I am.
yep,
Like I still remember being that guy who was answering the phone, getting on the roof with the installer, taking the skin off his knuckles, trying to lift tiles and all of those things back in the early days myself.
yep.
I've always tried to stay connected to that. So I think I've managed to keep reasonably grounded along the way. I think where I probably fell down and my biggest regret was just not looking after myself.
Mm,
Uh, as the business grew, it was almost easier when we weren't succeeding.
mm,
Like when the top of the mountain was so far away, but you could see it, like I want to get to the summit. And that fuel to get me there every day is just pushing on and on, uphill, uphill, uphill every day.
mm.
But increasingly I started sleeping less, looking after myself less and less, just trying to rely on my resilience and my hustle and thinking that I had more energy than the average person. And that would be what helped me to achieve my goals.
Yeah, right.
And maybe to a certain extent it did. Um, but I think, coincidentally, as we started achieving on paper everything that we'd ever set out to achieve, and everything looked amazing. And I was getting messages on LinkedIn saying, "I just admire your journey so much. You guys, just incredible success story." My life started going a bit south
Mm.
after the lights went out. We grew from 10 to 60 staff in no time. Like it was so quick. And we had to because we had jobs coming from everywhere, people wanting to work for us. And we just had to keep feeding this beast, this business that just wanted to grow. And my business coach said at one stage, "You've got a tiger by the tail here. This business wants to run and there's nothing you can do about it." So I kind of embraced that. But the problem was I got to a point where it's like the elastic band, you pull it and eventually it snaps. And yeah, I got to the point where I realized that every decision I made every day, there's a lot riding on it. It was like, and one of the electricians would come in and tell me that his wife was pregnant or he'd just taken out a mortgage or something that it meant he was all in and relying so heavily on this job.
Really big deal for some people. Yeah.
Yeah. And the pressure of making decisions and their livelihoods being affected by those decisions, some reason that started to seep into my consciousness at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just ignored it. I just thought I could work harder and harder. But you can't. It always catches up with you. So I'll go into some pretty dark, sort of moments in chapter 17.
Yep.
But it was swift and it was brutal, my downfall, and it took me a long time to get back. So clearly, if I have any regrets and things were done differently, I would have done more to look after myself along the way and not neglect all of that. And yeah, the hardest thing about it is that my recovery took a long time. I physically couldn't work for quite some time. And that's all well and good. Like I chose to pay that price for the success that we enjoyed, but I kind of also chose to make my family pay that price, and
Yeah.
my team paid that price because there was so much pressure on them when the CEO just went missing and physically couldn't come into work and no one knew where he was and when he was coming back. I couldn't even talk about it. It was so raw and so hard to speak about without bursting into tears or having a panic attack or whatever it was. So that was really unfair, the pressure it put on my people and the pressure it put on my family. Um, and there's one story that really got to me, which I mentioned in the book, where I was just sitting there watching telly one day and just started crying. And I just had tears rolling down my cheeks. And then Charlie, he was 6 years old at the time, and he just got up off the kitchen table, walks over and stands behind me, just placed a hand on my shoulder and he said, "Are you okay, Dad?" And it just broke me. Yeah, just broke me because you started thinking for a 6-year-old boy who sees his dad as this big, strong, formative father figure in his life, that nothing can knock him off course. That must have been pretty hard to see. So yeah, I really regret a lot of that and how I ended up in that position.
Yeah.
I suppose without all of those challenges I went through, maybe I wouldn't be the person I am today. And
Yeah. We're having a bit of a chat about this as well. Like I sort of said, it's a question I always struggle with.
Mm.
Like, because having been through some tough times as well, mental health issues too, to then say, well, am I better off if I hadn't have gone through it? I don't know. Wouldn't make me the person I am today.
Yeah.
And it's a really difficult one, but you don't want to inflict pain on the people you love either.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing. Like, you don't really. It is a bit unfair to get them to go through the things without a choice.
Yeah.
I think that's where I land on it, I think.
Mm.
But,
And how did it feel for you? Like for me, the guilt of what I was inflicting on my family was actually making it worse. Like it became this
yeah.
this vicious cycle. Like I felt more guilty for making my family shoulder this load, and that made my problems worse, and I was sleeping less. Were you the same kind of way?
Probably not quite, because I feel a lot of the mental health issues I had weren't a result of, well, they could have been a result of bad choices I've made, but I feel like there wasn't really a sense that I was inflicting it on myself. A lot of it was kind of sort of taken out of my control, and it was just whether it was my brain or whether it was just my physical being and reacting in a certain way, I couldn't control some of it. So it was a little bit different. It was a little bit different like that. But one thing that was constant is always having the support there.
Yeah.
So
You learn who your friends are, don't you? And
yeah,
it deepens some relationships so much. Yeah, going through those times.
most definitely. I mean, I don't really have that many friends now. Like, a lot of my friends are in the solar industry.
Yeah,
To be honest, like I feel like I found my people
yeah.
with the solar industry. They are my people, and
Wonderful, isn't it?
yeah, it is really good. Friends come and go, and I've got a few friends that um, have been around pretty much seems like forever, and they feel like they probably will be. But there's been people that will come and go, and
Yeah. Yeah, it really is like a family, this industry, and sure a lot of people in their jobs feel like that, but there's something special about this industry that
yeah,
it's hard to put your finger on, but it's really magical. And what I found was when I did finally get myself back on track, I made a few commitments to myself. But one was that I would go out there and I would tell those stories.
yeah,
I wanted people to understand, like, forget about what happens on LinkedIn and Instagram.
yeah,
Like, my life is a bin fire at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking about running laps around the golf course, tears rolling down my cheeks, falling in a heap, calling beyond blue, just
yeah,
in a desperate place. And then that day, someone's like, "Oh, man, you guys are on the most amazing journey. You guys are incredibly successful. How good is everything going at Gippsland Solar?" Like, not after the lights go out. So people need to hear that. And I did a presentation at the Smart Energy Conference in Sydney when I finally got to the point where I could talk about it without, sort of falling apart.
is that this year? Is that this year's one, or was that
A couple of years ago.
a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago. It was my first one when I got back in the game and I said, I'm ready to tell my story. And I just did 4 slides about the build up, the downfall, the rebuild, and what I've learned.
I remember this actually. Yeah,
And then I, shed a few tears and got a bit wobbly halfway through and I felt a bit, felt like I'd stuffed it up. And then some guy just came up afterwards and gave me a big old hug.
yeah,
Never met the guy before, but yeah, he'd followed me on LinkedIn. He'd just come and give me a big old hug. And someone else brought their dad over. They'd been nagging their dad to get out of the shed, start spending more time with his family. He's going to kill himself. And he brought his dad up to meet me and said, "This is where you're going to end up, just like this bloke if you don't listen to mum and I." And It's just knowing that maybe he's gone and made a decision in his life that'll send him on a better trajectory as a result of hearing my story. That's my new purpose.
Mm.
I still love renewables. Energy will always be my purpose, but there's another purpose now, and that's to just open up and create those conversations that particularly men aren't very good at having.
Yeah. I think we're definitely getting better though. Like even just having this conversation we're having now, I mean, you wouldn't. It just probably wouldn't happen like 20 years ago. You just wouldn't have two blokes in their early 40s sitting here talking about their feelings. It's talking about their experiences.
Yeah. Sure, people from the previous generation would go, Jesus Christ, guy, done up.
Uh,
But yeah, this is where we need to be as a society.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Most definitely. It's definitely getting better. And just imagine where it could be in another 20 years. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mind the fact that my boys have seen Dad sit on the couch having a cry and said, "Sorry, Dad's just going through some very
Yep.
tough times at the moment." I said, "Is there anything we do?" I said, "No, there's nothing you can do. I'm just a bit sad at the moment. I'm going through some tough times, a bit hard, and it's okay. It is what it is. They see me as a human. Hopefully, it will impact on the way they raise their own children, and each generation will get a little bit more connected and with their feelings and be able to be a bit more vulnerable. So we'll be a richer society for that."
yeah, I think that's true. Vulnerabilities are it's an amazing quality for people to have, and everyone's scared of it. Well, not everyone. A lot of people are just scared of it, but there's really nothing to be scared of, I think.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. It deepens your relationships, as I said before. So I've got relationships that were fairly surface level until a few years ago, and now we're like really deeply connected because we share stories, and it's not just beers and backslapping and jocularity. There's a bit more
Yeah.
more layers to it, and I think it's made me a happier and more well-rounded person, knowing that when I'm dealing with some of these challenges, I can look through my phone. There's
Yeah.
30 odd people I could pick up the phone and talk to about it, and I know that they would understand where I'm at, and they'd reciprocate, and it really helps. It's probably putting a lot of counsellors and therapists out of a job. All these blokes learn how to deal with their challenges by talking to their mates. I'm like, man, we used to charge $300 an hour for this. We're upsetting an entire industry here, Pat.
For sure. I've certainly found like, yeah, I could probably do that the same. Yeah, 20 or 30 people
Mm.
to just jump on the phone and have a chat to. Some of them I probably don't even know all that well, but I know them well enough to know that they would be empathetic enough to want to sit down with me and be happy to want to help.
I think my favourite moment in the industry where I felt most proud, business stuff aside, is one day someone who I won't name rang me because his business was about to fall over.
Mm.
And he didn't want any business advice. He just rang me and he said, "I don't think we've really ever spoken that much before." He said, "But I just needed someone to talk to. I figured you'd be someone I can talk to about it." Yeah. He'd heard my presentation at Smart
Yeah,
Energy,
right.
and he just went, "I reckon that I can pick up the phone and Andy's going to, be able to listen and understand and help me through this because he obviously is leading the way and he's talking about his own problems." So the fact that of all the people in the industry, he chose to call me, not for business advice, but to just help him through. Yeah, it's really nice to be that person for someone.
Yeah, for sure. That's lovely to hear that someone would do that and that you're willing to do that. Don't think you're the only one too. I think there'd be a lot of people who'd be willing to do that. And yeah, just one of the reasons why our industry is such a great place to be.
Yeah, it's special. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that was pretty heartfelt little section there.
Got a bit deep, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
I liked it. That was good.
No, it was good. All right, we'll go to the next ad from our sponsors. And yeah, we'll back to wrap the show up. A couple of other little things I want to cover as well. And yeah, we'll wrap the show up, and all that'll be coming up right after this. Okay, we're back again. Thanks again to our sponsors from Radio Carrum for everything you do. All right, Andy, had a bit of a deep breath after that. To got our thoughts back, and yeah, no, that was a really nice chat, that last part. So thanks very much for opening up with all of that, and appreciate it.
Yeah, we're all recharged and ready to head
Yeah.
towards the finish line now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, let's might move into a little bit of industry news, which has been happening this week. First thing I'll mention, actually, you've spent a bit of time up in Sydney, haven't you? Been at the with all the cooks, all the people in the other side of the industry.
Big week.
Aces.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a remarkable event. I don't think I've actually been before, but
Yeah, right.
oh, it's incredible. There's nearly 1,600 people in the room at
Yep.
God knows what per head for a ticket. And
Yeah,
just goes to show this industry, there's so much money and influence and
absolutely.
it's yeah. It's fascinating to see where it's going, and I've been a little bit of a blind spot for that
Mm,
part of the sector, to be honest. I've
yeah,
always been kind of grassroots, getting it done, delivering projects.
for sure.
Incredible to see what happens in a room like that that I'm not really familiar with, but still quite inspiring in a different kind of way. You need the money and the influence to try and hit our targets,
Yeah,
as long as we don't ever lose sight of that sort of groundswell, the bottom up industry that's actually getting things done and looking after consumers and trying to lower power prices for everyone. I think we're a very important part of the industry.
most definitely. I think we are a huge part of it. But yeah, you're right. It's a different beast, that other side of things in large scale. And I mean, yeah, there's a lot of wind and I don't know, they're probably talking about hydrogen and other stuff like that. Where
Yeah,
they, yeah, a lot of big stuff. I got a little bit of exposure to that when I was at the CEC. I went 2 years. I think they had a guest speaker. They had an interview with Josh Frydenberg at the time, who was the energy minister. He was actually pretty good, to be honest, considering he was, he was probably one of them. He was like he wasn't like Abbott or Dutton, like just not interested in renewable energy. You could see he had a little bit of a vision for it at the time,
yep,
and he showed a pretty good interview. I thought. I think he's the only member of the Liberal Party who's ever spoken at one of those
yeah, right.
um, dinners. So I heard someone up there was talking about nuclear and stuff. So
I think it was Ted O'Brien.
yeah, well, that's it.
That is
Yeah,
that is 20 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back, Pat. The slide deck looked like it was done by my 8-year-old in Microsoft Paint, um, and the content was even worse. Like it was just basically just the problem is he just put a big picture up on his slide deck of a bunch of eggs, saying we put all our eggs in the renewable energy basket, and we need nuclear to smooth out the factually incorrect,
yeah,
ideologically driven nonsense.
mm,
I shake my head at the fact that people even call this a policy.
yeah.
Honestly, it's not a
It's
policy.
there's nothing in it.
No, just not.
Hot
Everything I
air.
understand about a policy, this doesn't tick any of those boxes. And I think the proponents of this ridiculous nuclear debate actually know that it can't be done.
Of course they do.
And this is just another Trojan horse to slow down the energy
Slow down,
transition and distract people. So,
People are catching on that it's yeah. Not everyone's silly. People are working out that this is just another delay tactic.
yeah. And by the time they say that it can be done, the energy mix in Australia won't ever require it. It's completely not fit for purpose. And Chris Bowen did a wonderful job of debunking that whole thing, just saying,
Yeah.
but we cannot dismiss it because there's enough people that believe that it could be feasible that we have to address it and we have to point out how ridiculously flawed it is. Because if we just laugh at it, we run the risk that it will start to catch on, especially if it's being,
Yeah.
propelled by the Murdoch media and all those other outlets that are trying to push this wheelbarrow. We've got to be quick to hit it head on and show people that it's nonsense and
Yeah.
it's not the way we need to be going.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, let's not give it the airtime it doesn't deserve. That's right. No, that's all good. The other thing that's happened this week, yeah, pretty big week in solar, I suppose, because the CER came out with um, a bit of a bulletin, I think it might have been, or an announcement that they're intending at this stage to reappoint the CEC to the approved products list. So that's sort of been up in the air for a while. And since the CEC are no longer doing the installer accreditation, I think a lot of people were wondering what was going to happen with that. So looks like I think they've put a 28 days submission period where you can, if it's going to affect you in any way, you can put a submission in. And I know there's been a few people online who have been sort of saying, well, this is our opportunity to get rid of the CEC out of all this sort of stuff. I haven't heard anything from the CEC about it. I think they might have just mentioned in a little post that this is what was happening. So yeah, the next couple of weeks we'll sort of see where that all sits, I reckon. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, you got any thoughts on that, Andy, or not really? It's sort of just
I'm taking more interest in this now that I'm
yeah.
out of my business and I'm thinking more about my role in the industry.
Mhm.
I'm starting to look big picture at what's holding this industry back from hitting our objectives.
Yep.
I think the decision to move the accreditation to SAA, I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty quickly realising, though, that it was a bit of a thankless task being in charge of 9 or 10,000 installers and trying to manage the long tail of the industry.
Yeah.
So I think that the CEC in some ways has sort of been, a bit of a thankless task, as I say, and maybe it's probably a good thing for them as well. It frees them up, allows them to reimagine what they can be. I think the product thing going across to them and SCA holding accreditation, I think, is a logical progression for this industry.
Yep.
And I think, once SAA start to iron out some of the kinks that they're dealing with at the moment, I hope that it will move forward smoothly because this industry doesn't need more barriers and hurdles.
Yeah, for sure.
We need some.
We don't want to get in our own way, do we?
Yeah, that's right. And, I think there's absolutely a role for the CEC to play going forward. I think products is the right solution going forward for them.
Yeah. No, fair enough. All right, good stuff. All right. Well, I think we're kind of getting towards the end of the show. You want to give I'm tipping you're going to be doing a fair bit of you've been doing the rounds, doing a bit of a promotion of your book. That's all coming up. Actually, is this the first? This is the first.
You are the first.
Yeah, first promotion. We didn't mention that, did we? Yeah,
it's the first podcast I've done, and this for those that are looking at the video as well. This is the very first copy of Here Comes the Sun in the Wild. So the delivery came 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I've read through it and there's no typos, no grammatical errors, no anything. It was a very, very nervous read knowing we just printed 8,000 copies. And I was hoping there was nothing in there I'd overlook because I did 6 edits of this damn book.
Yeah.
And I knew there'd be something, but no, it's come out well. And you're the first person to see it in the wild, Pat. And did you see those 2 security guards outside the glasses and the earpiece was in?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
They're here to make sure. They said if the book doesn't come in 2 hours, we're going to bash the door down and we're coming in because it's under embargo until the 30th of July. So I shouldn't even be out here with it.
That's good. So you happy with it? You happy with the book?
Yeah, I've overthought it to an inch.
Yeah, of course you have.
It's the imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
has been raging. So the fact that I feel like such a fraud and a bit of imposter syndrome, I think, is quite healthy because without being arrogant about it, I think maybe in business I started becoming quite comfortable. I believed that I deserved to be in every room and in every discussion. I had a pretty high level of self-confidence once we started sort of growing the business. And now I've gone all the way back to feeling like I don't deserve to be here. Like my story is not interesting enough for someone to buy a book and spend all this time reading it. And I feel, I feel a bit fraudulent, but I've submitted it to a publisher and they've got to invest in it. And they said, we love the book. I've sent it to some people like yourself to prepare for today and some others that provided some endorsements. They all came back and said, we love the story. So I'm getting more comfortable that it's not a complete waste of 260 pages of paper. But I still feel really uncomfortable about it. And I think that discomfort is what's driving me. And it's given me a sense of energy that I haven't had since we sold the business, if I'm being honest. It's, it's just about doing new things in life and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah, good stuff. Oh, that's good. So, all right, what about plugging your book? Where do we get a copy? Like, can I get it in yet? Because you haven't released it yet, have you? You done pre-orders?
We are doing pre-orders.
Doing pre-orders, yeah.
What's the standard line? Available online and through all good bookstores.
There you go.
But no, we are doing pre-orders through, Booktopia, unfortunately, went into voluntary administration.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I think half a dozen of my friends have lost their deposits and I'll have to give them a free copy of the book now. We're doing pre-orders through the Amazon website.
Yep.
And also I've got a couple of book launches.
Yeah, I know about this. I was going to ask you about your book launch. Are they still, what do you do? Just turn up there if people want to go?
Yeah, they're pretty heavily subscribed now. So
particularly
the Melbourne event.
Right.
So the order is from now on. So 30th of July is the actual release date.
Yep.
When the pre-orders will actually be released to people who've placed them.
Mm-hmm.
The 7th of August, on a Wednesday night, we're having a book launch at Readings Bookstore in Carlton.
Yes.
So we've got about 100 RSVPs, and that's a pretty small bookstore. So I'm hoping that's not going to be a super spreader event.
Yeah.
It'll be pretty confined in there. And I've got the Energy Minister coming to say a few words and a lot of the some good luminaries from the industry and also a lot of old mates.
Great.
Someone who I haven't seen since I met in South America in 2005.
Wow.
Has been following my life and business journey because he started his own company. And he just reached out and said, hey, I'll see you on the 7th of August.
How good's that?
I haven't seen you in 20 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic just to walk down memory lane. And so that's going to be great. And then we're also having an event 3 days later on a Saturday down in Gippsland, do a launch in Traralgon, and a lot of the mayors and CEOs and some old industry colleagues and friends and some people who probably thought we wouldn't ever build a successful business down there.
Yeah.
Come down to say we might have been wrong. So that'll be a nice reflection of how far the valley's come and, just to, stop and smell the roses.
For sure. That's the Saturday afternoon one, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've hired out the Momo Cafe in Traralgon.
Oh, yep.
It's going to be a pretty big event, and I've just had some friends convince me to have a book launch up in Sydney, so I'm just trying to lock down a venue and a date for that.
Perfect.
Probably have 50 or 60 people there and, get a launch up in Sydney as well.
Good stuff. No worries. And so, yeah, pre-orders for now. How do we get it? If you want to pre-order a copy, how do you do that?
So the Amazon website,
Amazon.
yeah,
Yep. So Amazon's the best place to go.
yeah, for pre-orders, you just search for Amazon. Here Comes the Sun. It'll
Yep.
come up, nice big bright yellow cover.
Yep.
Can't miss it. But also, Readings are hosting my Melbourne book launch, and Collins Bookstore in Sale are partnering with me on the Traralgon one. So you can also jump on the Readings or the Collins Bookstore website to place an order. And for people from overseas, Readings is the best one for international purchases because their international shipping's pretty respectable price. So yeah, I'm to be honest, I'm really surprised at how high the pre-orders have been. I didn't expect it.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't think it was going to make much of a splash, and it's already selling a few copies. So I'm pleasantly surprised, and who knows where it goes from here.
Yeah. Do you get an email when someone buys a copy?
No, I'm just getting weekly update.
A weekly update.
Yeah, but I had an expectation of how many people would actually place a pre-order, and
Yeah.
I've been pretty blown away by it. So
Great.
hopefully it's not a waste of anyone's time.
Yeah. Beautiful. All right. Good stuff. All right. Well, I think we're going to head into some closing comments now. Yeah. Before we do that, I just want to thank you for coming down and spending the time to come on to Solar Psychics. I really appreciate you making the journey. Been like a really good chat with you. I've really enjoyed it. It's sort of what I thought it would be with you. Kind of known you for a few years, and this is exactly sort of what I thought we would get out of it. I'm also looking forward to listening to this again and just seeing sort of where we went because it's all a little bit of a blur, to be honest. You go through these, you speak about this sort of stuff, and you kind of forget what you went through. And yeah, sometimes it's really nice just to hear again what you've said and what other people have said to you. So thank you very much for coming up. Really appreciate it. Thanks for everything you've done for the industry as well. I know so many people who see you as a mentor, who have modeled their business model on the one that you did, and I think there's something in that, and a lot of really successful businesses have done that. And I think you've laid the foundation for this business to be able, sorry, for this industry to be able to grow really, really well. And I know it's, you've fallen out some hard times and all those sort of things. That's all part of the journey, I think. But I do believe that, you've been really one of, I don't know, I use the word sort of pioneers a little bit, but I think to be able to make the industry break out into a commercially viable one, I think you were one of the first ones to do it really, really well. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you for, everything you've done in the industry and also the friendship we've had over the years. It's been really good to be able to pick the phone up and call you, and don't do it all the time, but every now and then we do, and it's good. I really enjoy our chats.
It is. I appreciate those kind words, and I've been very fortunate with the support I've received in this industry as well.
Yep.
Talk about pioneers. There's guys like Nigel Morris that I met in
Yeah.
2001.
I know.
I mean, I feel like a fraud again calling myself a pioneer when someone like Nigel's been around God knows how long. But
Exactly.
he taught me everything I knew in a lot of ways, and there was some people that were very patient with me in the early days, and I was always been curious, a real sponge for knowledge. And some people had infinite amount of patience to help me to cut my teeth.
Yep.
And to everyone out there who's maybe enjoyed some mentoring or support from me or someone else and had the support to grow their own business, if you're in the position, just pay it forward. Just keep on paying it forward. Just lift other people up, and just think about the obligation you have, not just to your own business success and putting food on the table, but also to industry. Because if we can start to break down some of those barriers and help to lift each other up, then, the old saying, like all ships rise on the high tide. I just think that's something we always need to be mindful of because it's a powerful mission that we're on. There's a lot of people still trying to stand in our way. And the only way we're going to get there is by pulling together and doing it as a group. And it's also a lot more fun when you're all in on it together because you have some great times along the way. As you and I, our relationship's been a great example of that. So some of my friendships, my biggest competitors are the ones that I value the most because I still want to beat them. And I still lose plenty of jobs to them. It frustrates the life out of me, but there's a level of respect that they can survive that long on the solar coaster and that they're a force for good in the industry, and we've got to keep it in perspective.
Yeah. Very, very wise words. Thanks a lot for that. Well, but just as we wrap the show up, I think we had a little bit of a theme of punching out a few bars. So have you got those words there we were going to talk about? Because I don't know the words 100%. But
so you're going to sing with me?
I am going to try.
All right.
I just don't know all the words, but I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Spotify doesn't work this out and go, oh, we're we're frauding some Beatles or anything like that.
Well, I was worried about getting sued for calling my book Here Comes the Sun. Maybe singing it on a podcast is going to be the thing that pushes me over the edge.
Well, hopefully we're far enough out of key that it won't pick it up.
Hey, I was like, I've got no idea what they were trying to sing. Are we going to do it? Are we actually doing
We are doing it. We're doing it.
Okay.
All right, let's go. You going to kick it off or should I?
Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I got the words right, and you've got to check the words as well. All right, so you ready? We're going to start with
Yep.
Little Darling?
Yep.
All right. Little darling, it's been a long and lonely winter.
Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's all right. Good stuff, man.
Love it.
All right.
That's the first time I've done that on a podcast, and I have a feeling it's going to be awful when we listen back to it.
Hey, that was brilliant. I love it. So good. All right. Eat your heart out, Jessica McPherson. All right. All right. So that's the end of the episode from episode 16, Solar Sidekicks. Andy McCarthy, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week for episode 17. Until then, we'll hear you on the next episode of the Solar Sidekicks. Thanks very much.